team's toast, but there's certainly no shortage of topics here as we hit the final stretch. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots, Steelers and Pirates, in the same place that you found this. The Penguins will conclude their 5-game homestand tomorrow night against the Blue Jackets. I guess you'd have to call them pipe dreams that would have existed about that being meaningful, considering where Columbus is in the standings. That all went poof by blowing the big lead against the Islanders the other night. What you would hope does not go poof the rest of the way is the collective positive overall vibe that's come about with this team. And a lot of that, I feel like, not to take anything away from the main guys, has been that most of the supporting cast is kind of playing for their NHL lives. And that has a lot to do with the way Kyle Dubas put this roster together last summer. He brought in, the Anthony Beauvillier types that were looking for bounce backs, for fresh opportunities. Beauvillier, by every reckoning, made the most of his, got traded to a contending team in Washington. We'll see how that goes for him and them, for that matter, in the playoffs. And really, Dubas never stopped with that phase, that acquisition phase of his process. And that's why he was able to get Cody Glass, who he ended up parlaying over to the Devils. Glass acquitted himself, I thought, pretty well. Could have shot more, could have scored more. And then probably the guy who's been his signature in this regard, in Phil Tomasino. I'm going to be honest with you here. I like to think I've got some kind of stance on everything, especially as it relates to hockey. Love to watch it, love to analyze it, love to pick apart the players and their tendencies, good and bad. And I got to tell you, after watching him for 41 games, exactly half of an NHL season, I feel like I have absolutely no clue what he is. And I don't even say that in a mean way. It could be in a glowing way, depending on the day. I feel like I don't know what to expect. And at the same time, I feel like when he does deliver, I don't get surprised by it. Am I making any sense with any of this? That seems to me to be who he is. Statistically, he's got 10 goals and 9 assists in that half a season. He's got a -7 rating. He's got 72 shots and a 14.3 shooting percentage. All of those are decent. If you want to extrapolate them, and that's always dangerous, you can just casually double them and say, hey, he's a 20-goal guy. That's not bad. And he's 23 years old, has the world in front of him. But do you remember when Tomasino was made a healthy scratch by Mike Sullivan a few weeks ago? You don't? No? Well, see, that's making my point. He can get a hat trick, and we won't bat an eyelash. He can be a healthy scratch. Feel the same way. Does that make him, a right-handed Danton Heinen? If he weren't 23, would you think of him as being someone in that mold? And then, on top of that, I'm not even sure what it is that I want him to do for me to solidify this stance. He's 6 feet. He's not exactly a body banger. He's not the most dedicated defender. His passing feels hit and miss to me. You'll see something really, really neat from him, and then you'll also see he'll cross the opponent's blue line, pull up, and then just kind of blandly tuck it forward, even though he'll have Yevgeny Malkin streaking down the other side. Specifically here, I don't see him getting the puck to Gino often enough, but even that takes me to another Tomasino topic, which is that he's getting the goals that he's gotten, for the most part, in top 6 type settings. Not universally, obviously, but he's been playing with Gino. He's been playing on the power play. He's been getting offensive zone starts. And what that tells me is that he's either going to be top 6, or he's going to have to reinvent himself, or the Penguins will have to eventually have so much talent stacked up front that they do legitimately create 3 scoring lines. They aren't there yet, to be kind. So what do you do with him? Well, you don't do anything with it. This isn't some catch or release game. He's going to be here, and he's only going to be 24. And there's going to be opportunity for him next year, too. I just wish I could get a little bit more excited about it. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season. From Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Matt. It's in reference to my opening segment yesterday, in which all I did was complain about the Penguins defensemen not being able to get their shots through to the net, how commonly they're blocked, and even how some opponents have pounced on that strategically, deliberately, to create odd man breaks in the other direction. Matt asks, DK, I remember Sergei Gonchar used to practice shooting through and around chairs. What do you think about bringing somebody in who could teach that skill as a coach? First thing I want to tell you, Matt, is that it wasn't that long ago that I was having just a casual conversation with Sidney Crosby about great point men, players who specifically, this was what the topic was, were able to gain the zone effortlessly and were able to set up the power play. And what I did, and again, this is just talk, right, is I brought up Alexei Kovalev, which is, unless you count Kovalev's kind of lame second phase in Pittsburgh, not really something to which Sid could relate. He just jumped in. Gonch. What about Gonch? And I didn't really have a reaction. I think he was expecting me to, and his eyes get big, and he goes, Gonch. I'm like, all right, Gonch. Yeah, I get it, Gonch. But he's right. It's not like I was disputing him. I just didn't react right away. The biggest advantage that Gonch had over everybody else on the rink was that he was smarter than everybody else on the rink. He could do a whole lot of other things too. But the brain power was through the roof. And if there's anything that anybody else would want to study about Gonch, let's say, getting away from this, and with all due respect to Sid's strongly held position, I would say that it would be that half wind up slap shot. For those of you who go back to that era, Gonch could get rid of it in a blazing hurry because he didn't need to do the full Al McGinnis over the head wind up. He would just kind of pick the stick up maybe 2 or 3 feet back and just boom. And it went with force, and it went where it needed to go. And you know where else it went? Past the person in front of him. Now, I say that, and shot blocking is very different now than it was back then. Even 15, 20 years ago, the only people doing that were defensemen who had shot blocking as part of their reputation and repertoire. Now it's everybody. And if you're a bottom 6 forward and you're not doing it, chances are really good you're not going to last. So I'm not going to be naive here and say that Gonch could show up, in his peak or his prime today and get his shot through the same way. But yes, you're right. He did develop this skill. It was a priority for him. It was a priority for him in practices too, chair or no chair. I referenced another player kind of from that same era yesterday in Larry Murphy, and the list, of course, would be very long. And you know what? There are players who are pretty good at it now. In his own way, Erik Karlsson is. The difference between Karlsson and the guys that I just mentioned is that he'll feel the urge to deke whoever's in front of him out of their shorts, and then from there survey the entire ice before he releases the puck. Because he can do that. Parenthesis here. Karlsson actually led the NHL in successful dekes, according to a study of that very thing, which should really tell you how intricate some hockey analysis is beginning to get. End parentheses. The bottom line is this team needs to do a lot better at getting the puck through. Chris Letang, more than anybody, needs to do a lot better at getting the puck through. But you're not changing the Tiger stripes. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow.